This is Vox of Nyxora, and we go to 11.
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
Hey,
Thank you.
so thanks for your time. I think I happened upon the band, and I don't remember. I think it might have been on Instagram. In fact, it always
I
has
was
like
gonna
a
ask
like
you
a
how, and
like
I
a
do
series
appreciate
of
you finding
you
us.
may like, and I checked it out.
Uh-huh.
Now um I was familiar with the name because of the proximity of where you guys perform and where I'm at. So obviously I
Yep.
did a lot of shows in Portland, and I was like,
Yeah.
it sounds familiar. Let me check it out. And then I think we talked for a little bit, online, and it was like,
Yep.
I'd like to get you guys, or at least yourself, and get you guys a little bit of video time so we can, plug the band and plug the new record. So I
Yeah,
guess,
appreciate that.
yeah. So give us a little bit about kind of the origins of the band.
All right. Well, origins, I mean, not to sound too much of a trope, but so there
Hmm.
was this pandemic.
Yeah.
So I personally I've always been in a band, but I have a classical music background.
Mm.
And I moved from the Midwest in 2016 and been in a band since high school. I didn't know anybody out here. And so I joined a couple semi-professional choirs because I had nothing else to do,
Mm.
which got shut down with the pandemic.
Right.
And that's how I found out about our drummer, Weatherman, and
Right.
Erath, our guitarist.
Right.
And they were getting together and jamming. And I crashed it.
Mm.
My husband had a coworker who was the neighbor that sometimes jammed, and I'm just like, cool, when are you guys doing it next? I'm gonna show up. And I just did.
Oh, wow.
Um, and I sent him an email. I'm like,
Right.
hey, I'm coming. I gave him a couple songs, like just like some covers everybody knows.
Okay.
Like the one we landed on was Deftones Passenger.
Okay. Right.
It just, I'm another worshiper of Maynard James Keenan.
Okay.
And of course Chino, of course.
Right. Right.
Um, but Maynard, like my range, like vocal range, is kind of
Hmm.
in my wheelhouse, and I mean, who isn't obsessed with him? So showed up, performed that, did a little bit of jamming, and I'm like, so what do you guys think?
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, cool. I'm
Oh,
like,
nice.
yeah, is
Yeah.
that it? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna come back,
Right.
and they're like, okay, and
Okay.
they
So
never
it's
told me to stop. I just kept showing up. And then finally, I took their little jam sessions. I'm like, okay, so this is a song. It has
right.
a structure now, it has a
Sure.
melody and lyrics. And next thing you know, we had an album. And we're like, shit, we should record this.
Right. So the course of that time from when you jammed with them to the present time, how far back does that go? Because I know the pandemic's in there somewhere. We
It
know
was
that
it was
started there.
December of 2020.
Okay.
It was like Christmas of 2020 when I crashed the first rehearsal. And then our first gig was October of 21.
Mm.
We played at the Star Theater. We opened
Okay.
for Old Blood out of LA. They were
Oh,
signed to
okay.
Metal Assault Records at the time, and we got on it.
Wow.
So our guitarist Eric Erath, he was in Haunted Garage, which was this horror punk
Uh-huh.
band out of like 80s and 90s. I
Okay.
don't know if you've heard of these bands called like Tool and White Zombie, but they opened for
Yeah.
him back in the
Right.
day.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're
Yeah.
pretty
So that was
recognizable
Eric.
names. Yeah. Oh, nice.
So he knows everybody.
Yeah. I'm gonna
And
have
that
to
was our
go dig
first gig ever.
I'm gonna have to dig up some tunes from that band because I'm sure
Oh
I've
yeah.
heard them. I mean, over the
Oh yeah.
years.
They
I
just
mean,
did a reunion in the last couple of years, and
mhm.
yeah, they're fun.
Nice.
You should definitely check them out.
Yeah, no
Find
kidding.
what you can online. Video is
So,
great.
so what's the significance of the name, and when did that come to be? Because I know that's always tough trying to find the right name for a band. Sometimes it comes real easy. The other times, it almost becomes
Yeah. I
tasking.
mean, we had our parameters. It wasn't that hard to come about though. We didn't want a the something.
Sure.
I really wanted a single word.
Hmm.
And trying to find something that wasn't taken. Something we kind of fell into. So
Hmm.
a lot of the writing has been So I've written most of the songs, and they were from mostly Eric, our
Hmm.
guitarist. He's done like the jamming, and
Right.
he brought a lot of like the quality of the sound and the chord structure.
Hmm.
And what influenced me a lot right off the bat is I have an opera background and a choir background, and I just kind of fell into Greek mythology really easily with this. And he's always appreciated that. He's studied Shakespeare a lot. So we kind of fell into this. We didn't like worship, but like kind of got stuck into like the goddess Nyx, the goddess of the night,
Mm.
which we kind of like the spookiness. We like the goth. We're not goth at all.
Hmm.
We liked that aspect, though. We're very drawn to it. I mean, how are you not? And like I don't know. We sort of the first few songs have like every song has multiple things that it's about, like multiple subjects for each song, which I
Hmm.
find very, very important in songwriting and lyric writing. But you could always like trace it back to a few things. You could trace it back to a certain opera with each one, which I did
Mm.
on purpose, or a
Okay.
certain folklore story, or a lot of Greek mythology too. So that's how we fell on the goddess Nyx. And then there were a million bands with all kinds of things with Nyx. And we're like, well, okay, like what's the aura of
Hmm.
Nyx to
Yeah,
go
right.
super Portland with it? So we're like,
Nice.
okay, Nyxora, let's spell it kind of funny and let
Sure.
everybody butcher it. And there
Right.
we are.
Well,
But
see,
there's
I
no
didn't
other
want to butcher
Nyxora.
it. I didn't
Yeah.
want to butcher it, but that's what it sounded like to me when I read it. But I
Well,
guess
good on you.
I could always use that English is my second language, so I can use that as an excuse. But no, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's a nice
Yeah.
little story behind the name. Um, so we have that the album's out, almost there, right?
Well, I like that you said that. The album's not out.
Okay.
We've
Well, I've heard it,
technically
but
we
oh,
have
whoops. Go
you
ahead.
have heard it because you're special, Ruben.
Oh, geez. Well,
We've released two singles,
okay.
one of which is almost there.
Okay.
We have not released the album yet,
Okay.
so you should feel a little fortunate with
Well,
that.
I am in a way. Yeah. I
Good.
mean, yeah, I'm really fortunate. I think oftentimes I get advanced stuff from, happen upon, and then I happen to have contacts with people. But in this case, real fortunate because I guess aside from you guys and probably friends and loved ones, are probably the one of the few people that have heard it. But one of the
Yeah,
things that
you're right
I
on that.
that I mentioned, to you after I had a couple shots at listening to the record, I said, this almost sounds, I forget how I termed it. I said, it almost sounds like a doomy band with a kind of a melodic, vocal that sounds a lot to me like Debbie Harry. And I was like, I hope you don't take offense to that because there is
Yes,
some
yes.
aspects of that in there. And that's probably comes from the opera background, I would imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you specifically asked me if I would be offended by
There
that,
you
and
go.
I'm like, oh, come on, are you serious? Like,
Right. Well,
who would be? So my personal background is I've been in bands since high school.
right.
I've always played bass and like the backup vocals
Mm,
because I can sing harmony well,
right.
and I would love to have that nasty female growl
Hmm.
and be able to scream. And I listen to those gals and I worship
Right.
them, and I just can't do it. And I've lost sleep over not being able to do it. And really, it was these boys, it was these guys in Nyxora that
Hmm.
really helped me for the first time in my entire life be like, what you're doing is okay. It works.
Right.
So I just leaned into what I was good at, and it's pretty, and that's what it is. And with the heavy guitar and the big loud band
Hmm.
and like the subject matter,
Right.
we creep and it works. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate
Right.
how you
Well,
feel about
well,
that.
well,
So I do
it's
too.
interesting because a lot of singers that a handful of singers that have spoken to over the years about, their uh, opera kind of background and classical background. It seems like they always lean towards like the symphonic end of things when it comes to like
Yeah,
the harder music. And I think you took a different approach, which I think is really cool. Like you were talking about the heavy guitars, the heavy riffs, and then the pounding bass and drums and stuff, along with the vocal. It just all works pretty well, and it's a unique sound.
I think that's one of the reasons we got it. So wrong from
Right.
Witch Mountain,
Witch
guitarist
Mountain.
from Witch
Right.
Mountain. He recorded us.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was a big reason for it is, I mean,
Mm.
he can appreciate a female vocalist coming into a heavier band.
Right.
But he's not the first person, but he's probably the heaviest weighted one I've come across
Mm-hmm.
saying, thank you for not trying to sound like
Right.
everybody else who
Sure.
does this with a pretty voice.
Right. Right.
And that's
Right.
meant a lot to me because I have tried.
And that really is hard, I think, to a certain extent. I mean, if you have add another symphonic metal band to the stack that's already out there, it's hard to kind of do something original because it almost seems like at some point it becomes kind of like they're mimicking one each other, which is
It is.
unfortunate
And
because
then,
there's a lot of
and who
great
cares at that
vocalists.
point?
Yeah.
Who
Yeah.
cares at that
And
point? Like it's been done. It's
yeah,
great. I appreciate
right.
it. I love Evanescence. It's great.
Sure.
Amy Lee is fantastic.
Hmm.
But no, I don't need to emulate her.
Right. Right. And I
Good,
think
but who
even
cares? So can a thousand other people. She did it first. It doesn't
right.
matter.
Right. And then I think you go down a tier and then you have Lacuna Coil, who is kind of the benchmark
Yes.
for the second tier. I hate to say second tier because they're a great band, but they come
No.
right underneath in a way
Yeah.
as far as overall popularity, success, but I guess, I think who's to say
Mm,
who's better?
yeah. Beatles or the Rolling Stones, right?
Right. Yeah, it comes down to that pretty much.
Yeah.
So, well, how did you guys connect with Rob? Because I am familiar with his work with Witch Mountain and stuff.
Um, that's a really good question, probably for Eric. I
Hmm.
mean, Eric is and Matt and Lou. Oh my man, I'm probably the worst one on the team to
Hmm.
ask.
Okay.
But those guys are really good at creeping on the Portland underground and the Portland scene.
Right.
And if it's happening there, they know about it. And like I
Hmm.
said, Eric knows everybody.
Right.
And every one of those boys, besides, yeah, everyone in Nyxora except myself is in another band.
Right.
And just knows everybody.
Ah.
And yeah, I couldn't really tell you how, but I know we picked on Rob a little bit, sent him some sound bites. He did come see us live. I think that was probably it. I think he saw us live right before.
Hmm.
I think you could fact check me on this, but
Okay.
I think we hit him up to
Okay.
record because we were looking where are we going to record because we knew we had kind of an issue, right? So we
Hmm.
have like these prettier female vocals and then we
Right.
have like the harder Portland thing, but we're not strict doom and we're not sludge and we're certainly not Portland stoner. It's like we've
Hmm.
really to this day we've struggled really finding our niche in the
Right.
scene even though we do get good vibes. So we're like who could possibly do this? And I think we really zeroed in on Rob because he has his own studio, because he has the mind to handle
Hmm.
this. And he's a guitarist. So he and Eric can communicate very well. He
Hmm.
knows his way around female vocals, which is kind of what we zeroed in on. And we thought that would be the easiest way to get around this. So he came to see us live at the High Water Mark in Portland. And
Okay.
then we ended up recording with him after that.
Ah,
And then
nice.
he, for mastering, so um, Justin Weiss at Trackworks Mastering out of
Okay.
Chicago. Um, doesn't really do our genre of music, but
Hmm.
again, we before everybody else got more comfortable with like I don't know what genre Nyxora is in,
Hmm.
but it's definitely not with what Justin works on a day-to-day basis. So we
Wow.
sent him our first release single, which was Goodnight Ophelia,
Okay.
and he decided to master it for free just because it was like a fun
Right.
exercise for him. He's like, I'll
Nice.
see if I like it. And we're like, oh, we'll see if we like it. And of course, we loved what he did. And then he
Oh, wow.
decided to do our whole album. So it just took off from there.
Nice. So he typically does stuff on the lighter side?
I think it's more electronic
Oh,
almost,
shoot. Okay.
a little
Oh,
more
wow. Oh, you
dancier.
said Chicago. That's like the industrial,
Yeah.
rock, capital of the US pretty much.
You could probably like wind your way around to
Mm-hmm.
explain it, but he would
Yeah.
probably be the best one to ask about it.
Right. So at this point, I mean, well, we'll get to a couple tunes that I really, I like the whole record. The whole record's great, but I think
Thank
uh
you.
uh Laurel Crown, is probably my go-to. I keep going back to that one. So
Yeah.
tell me a little
Our
bit about
opener
that
for
one.
every show.
Yeah, right. Tell
Yeah.
me a little bit. I mean, that I didn't know that, but now it makes
Yeah.
sense.
So, we like Laurel Crown. It was it was probably it was the third song. Yeah, it was the third song I wrote. Um, we love it for an opener because that opening
Hmm.
guitar riff. How do
Hmm.
you beat that? That's
Right.
just all Eric. It's all Erath right there. That is like perfect Erath. The structure is, it's not that it's odd. It's just
Hmm.
not a typical song structure. That was probably the first one I wrote with a little bit of an odd structure to where I had to like really kind of get on the boys. Like, this
Yeah.
is how this song goes, and
Right.
just stay with me on it. It's going to be
Yeah.
good. And it was the first one that I really leaned into with a lot of like opera influence. Um, so Giuseppe Verdi, one
Hmm.
of my favorites, one
Okay.
of my favorite composers, Aida. So I am a mezzo soprano, so I'm a low voice
Okay.
female, which
Right.
is not what you think of when you think of like the Viking horns, screaming,
Hmm.
breaking glass things.
Yeah.
So the mezzo was the villain, which I can fall into that really well.
Mm.
But Aida, the villain in that is Amneris, and she is the king's daughter, and she can have anything she wants, except what she wants is this one guy who wants not her. And she's like, if you won't love me, I will end you. I will
Yeah.
put you in a box. I will imprison you because I'm the queen, I'm the king's daughter, and I can imprison you.
Mm.
And he's just like, okay, I'll love you. Wait, I can't do it. I'm sorry. Go ahead and
Right.
imprison me. And she locks him up alive, and she buries him alive and kills him.
Uh,
And I love that trope. I love the symbology with him. Um, yeah, so that was my first one where I leaned really hard into like the whole opera story with
okay.
it. And I also, because of that, it really, so it was a timing with the third piece we wrote. I
Hmm.
leaned into the opera story with it. I leaned into my love of Verdi, and I'm like, you know what? Let's just see what I can do with my range.
Right.
Like, it goes to a low D below middle C, which is about the lowest I can sing and not sound like a growling man.
Hmm.
And then it goes up to a high F sharp, which I
Mm.
can sing higher than that. Doesn't mean I should live,
Right. Right.
but it's over a 2 octave range. So I really leaned into that. And the next thing we knew, it was like one of the favorites between me and the guys. And we're
Hmm.
like, this is going to be our opener with every single show we play.
Wow. No,
It was really
that's
hard not to
awesome.
be the opener on the album. So I really
Right.
appreciate that you picked
Yeah, I
that
mean, I
one out of
picked up
all of
on
them.
that. I think initially it was the riff, and
Yeah.
but I think
Yeah. It's amazing.
overall it's all the stuff that's happening behind the scenes there that you may not pick up on the first pass through, right? So, I mean,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Thank you for
And
that.
and then the title tune. Tell me about that one.
Um, what do you mean by title
I mean,
tune?
the almost there.
Oh, okay. I love how
Yeah.
you keep landing on that because I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, yeah. I mean,
Um,
it's like, yeah, that's another one. I mean, they're kind of neck and neck for me right now. But I think if I had to pick a gun
awesome.
to my head, I'd go with Laurel Crown before. But who
Okay.
knows? That could
It's
change in a
Laurel
week.
Crown's definitely more fun.
Hmm.
Almost there is going to be a little more cerebral, I think.
Hmm. Right.
I like Almost There. That one's a little more selfish for me.
Okay.
Um, it's long, it's a little more sludgy, it's
Hmm.
slower,
Yeah.
it's menacing. And that's why it's a little more selfish to me. And also, it does have the opera trope. So the first opera I was ever cast in was Giancarlo Monati's The Medium. He's actually an American composer,
Mm.
but that's where you find the lyrics of, there's a Black Swan aria in that.
Okay.
There is the Dancing the Waltz, which
Mm.
is where you're not sure if you're dancing with a ghost or not.
Right.
And then I tied that into, I very much flirt with, like, I find the deep American South very romantic.
Hmm.
And especially with the folklore. Like, I
Right.
love folklore and lots of different, like, I love Slavic folklore, obviously Irish, which
Hmm.
goes to my background, which I've studied for years and years.
Right.
But Southern Americana, I think, is
Mm.
very, very creepy, and I love it very much. And that's what I leaned into that. So Almost There came into the, you could argue whether it's Scottish or Irish, the like the Will o' the Wisp,
Mm.
like these swamp lights or these spook lights, but the idea that you are out in the middle of nowhere
Hmm.
and you don't want to admit it, but you're scared. But you see something, you see like this light, and you're like, oh, that must be safety. I should head towards that. But then
Right.
you realize like it might be actually leading you to your doom.
Right.
And I love that. And you never know until it's basically too late. Um, so I feel like when I write songs, one of the so been in lots of bands, obviously.
Hmm.
One of the ones I was in right before moving to Oregon when I was in Michigan, I was with a group of two other guys, and we were working in a genre that wasn't very familiar to any of us. So, we'd make a Spotify playlist and we
Mm-hmm.
throw stuff on there. Be like, listen to this for this reason, listen to this for this reason. And the three of us would listen to the exact same song. And the three of us would come up with very different conclusions every single time.
Mm.
One of us would always be like, oh, this song is about drugs, or this song is about sex,
Mm.
or this song is about death.
Right.
And there was nothing you could do to convince one person it wasn't about the other thing. And I just love that. I got stuck
Right.
on that. So when I write a song, I'm like, I want it to come from, like, it looks like it's being written from three different perspectives or three different
Hmm.
people. So I'm like, I want the folklore aspect. I want the
Mm.
opera aspect. I just, I remember watching, any interview with Kurt Cobain and they're like, what
Mm.
is this song about? And he's like,
Right.
you tell me. I love that.
Right. Right.
Good on him.
Yeah.
Good on him.
Yeah. Yeah, that'd be, yeah,
Sorry. That was
right.
I
And
don't even
no, but
remember your original question.
that's kind of the artistic end of things, because it's like, well, it's up to you to interpret, you know.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
You wouldn't listen to it otherwise.
Right. So
No one
what's
wants to
the
be fed this. It's got to resonate with you or
right?
you're not going to listen to it anyway.
Yeah. So at this point, what is the official release date for the record?
It is up in the air.
Oh, oh shoot.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, we
we
get
have a couple of options with
mm-hmm.
that. We've put out two singles. So
Right.
we finished the album in actually it was the end of September. We released the first single early September because that was finished
Mm-hmm.
because Justin at Traxworks kind of helped us out with that.
Right.
Um, and then the album was finished at the end of September. We've released one single since.
Mm-hmm.
And then yeah, the next would be the album.
Okay.
We
Well.
we're kind of doing the Portland hibernation thing for the
Mm-hmm.
winter. We all have
So
families. I mean,
right, right. So it sounds like maybe some shows sometime early next year then in 24.
spring. Yeah.
Spring. Oh,
Yep.
wow. So you're really gonna have people waiting. So I'll have to wait
Yeah.
till spring before I get a chance to see the first performance that I've witnessed.
Yep.
So that'd be good.
Keep you wanting
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. So okay, very cool. So the last thing I want to ask you, I'm going to have you do a plug for the site too, when for the
Oh, of course.
channel at the tail
Yeah.
end. But the one thing that I need to ask, because this is probably going to go more than likely up the Friday before Christmas, is there a
Okay.
particular Christmas song that really, that you really dislike or gets under your skin at all? I'd take a different spin.
Um,
It's too easy to find one you enjoy. I mean, is there a
right.
particular one
Um,
that gets, or and who performs it? Because as you know, I mean, there's different
oh,
performances of
no.
certain
So I
songs.
can't tell you performances because
Yeah.
I refuse to listen to them.
Oh,
So this
okay.
is where like I can get really, really hateful.
Okay. Okay.
Um, I hate Christmas. I hate it. I hate everything about it. I can't speak for the boys. I'm
Yeah, yeah,
sorry.
yeah.
I Let's make that very, very clear
Okay.
right now. I will
Right.
not speak for the rest of the guys. But no, personally, I don't give a shit about the religious
Hmm.
aspect.
Right.
I don't I hate the materialistic aspect of it. I hate commercialism.
Hmm.
Um, but I am a choir geek.
Okay. Okay.
So, Carol of the Bells, especially like the original Ukrainian version, Shedrik,
Oh,
my favorite carol.
okay.
I also I was an instrumentalist forever, so I got into vocals late. So by the
Hmm.
time I was singing Christmas carols with like, semi-professional choirs or even college choirs, it was all like medieval French stuff.
Hmm.
So like I'll never forget when like, I was in college and my mom could like go to a concert and she's like, "Will you sing Jingle Bells?" I'm just like, "No, no, it
Hmm.
won't."
Hmm.
Um, so what do I hate? Yeah, no, I know I hate all of it.
That's an awesome answer. I
Sorry.
like it. No, no, I'm
I'm
I'm with
sorry.
you. I
It's
kind of
horrid.
grew out of the
I
whole
hate it so
Christmas thing
much.
myself, but
I got a lot of
no.
hate.
So yeah, I don't look hateful, but I guess I really am. All
Thank
right.
you, Ruben. I
Yeah, we'll
appreciate
talk
you.
again. We'll
Mwah.
talk again, and I'll get you a link